Code along tutorial on ThoughtSpot Embed SDK, events, filters and custom UI.
So hi everyone. To start off, ThoughtSpot's Embed SDK makes it very powerful in uh, performing a lot of operations around. So to make it more very effective, we provide uh, the embed events and host events, which are a way to control ThoughtSpot's internal actions as well as listening in on any of the actions which trigger within the ThoughtSpots app. So embed events are the ones where you can add a hook onto any of the actions. For example, you are trying to uh, drill down of, let's say some user tries to drill down and you want to know whenever this action happens. So you can just have an event which says embed on drill down, and you can listen in and add a hook and have your own sort of events, maybe just logging in whenever this happens, or you yourself triggering some kind of alerts to your own backends, or even triggering some other events to be performed on inside the ThoughtSpot with our host events. Um, so yeah, the host events are the ones where you could uh, trigger an event to be performed within the ThoughtSpot app. And a straightforward example, let's say you want to update the runtime filters, you could pass in the object and just do a liveboard embed.trigger. I'll show this in action. So I have this sample embed app set up here. This uses the React version of the embedding. So you could see that we have the liveboard embed. It has a bunch of settings needed to render the page. And here we have uh, having a bunch of events added, which I feel would be helpful for my app here. For example, I would want to know whenever my um, app got initialized and whenever my in app got loaded. So this could be my hooks to um, maybe show a different kind of a loader on my parent app, or continue or as a breakpoint that as soon as the app has loaded, you could execute some of your own initialization steps around these steps. So the one difference between using this um, embed events on direct SDK, REST API SDK is over here. If you notice the example, you would see we do a instance of the libert embed dot on, and then we will be listening on the event. Uh, but in the context of the React, we try to simplify it, and you don't need to invoke the embed event directly. You can just say on and the name of the event. So um, let me give you example of one operation. Let's say on this point click. So this point click is the one. Let me just. Yeah. So you have a lots of events that you could make use of and add the events to make use of a lot of functionalities which would come very specific to your use cases. And one of them could be whenever a user clicks on this point, you would want to perform some kind of an actions. So for example, if I double click on this, I added a log event here. So whenever I click on this, you could see the event has been clicked. Going in a little more, let me say if I do a console of this to see the construction, how the object is constructed. And here you are, you can see the object structure that we share when event is triggered. And this data can be utilized to perform any other actions you want. For example, when the whisk point is clicked, we expose the data related to that. And this can be used um, to send out an alert that, yeah, this point is clicked. Uh, One particular action that users would want, we saw users do is whenever this point is clicked, they want the functionality of drill down to happen. And so we have an example taking this this point double click. You can expand that to um, yeah, you can make use of the some of the examples we provided. And uh, yeah, so in this example, um, we are also making use of the host events where we are saying whenever a point double click is clicked, event happens. We want to trigger the drill down. And so the drill down accepts it needs a specific point that it needs to be clicked on. So we can make use of the data emitted by the point double click and pass it along directly in this example. So okay, let me just calculate this. So yeah, now it's mapped. And when we go ahead and double click this, okay, seems like a bug there, but ideally this should have triggered the drill down, which should get you to the other state as this. Um, Moving on, so we also expose some more runtime filters. So the runtime filters help you filter out the liveboard. So the filters which you see at the liveboard level are fixed filters, and the user requires updating them manually through here. Um, and if the customers want a more runtime filter where they want to display that, okay, they um want a higher data level filter, and let's say the data that shows up on this liveboard should only be specific to Michigan states, then um, yeah, we have a whole set of filters where you could pass in um, a whole higher level filters from the embed, and using the functionalities of the embed uh, host events, you could update them runtime. So for example, taking the same example of this point, yeah, I have an implementation here where I'm picking up the point which has been clicked and taking the value, and I'm applying a runtime filter. So the runtime filters triggers the host event called update runtime filters and applies the column to value. So now if you um, double click this, it applies the filter based on the point I have clicked. So these are already filtered by Michigan State, so the chart doesn't seem like updated, but it's being reset to the Michigan all over. And whenever we do um, the changes of states here, we also apply this files. For example, I guess this is where you could say Maryland has a Columbia state. And Michigan state cities are listed there. So yeah, updating runtime filters becomes easier with the help of the host events. And when you're done with the filters, you don't want them, you can just do a reset. Uh, our reset option would, I mean, you can implement a reset option, which would be like sending an empty values for these filters, and it should go ahead and reset the values. And now you have all the fields. So now if you double click on them, it should add a filter which is very specific to the filter based on the uh, run this point double click that we added. So that mostly covers some actions that you could do here. Um, you could also decide if you want to have more customizability within the app, and one of those would be setting selected visits. Um, for example, so we have an host event called set selected visits, where you could decide which visits to be shown. And you can pick up the IDs that's needed for that are related to the viz, and just try to use them. For example, if I take this link and copy the viz ID, so we are setting the host event that when this is triggered, we are only going to show this one particular viz on the liveboard and hide everything else. So this is helpful if you don't want to show any other visualizations within the liveboard when um, maybe clicking on one of the custom actions you want to trigger this to highlight this one particular wish that the user is trying to highlight, review. And once it's done, you can have another button to get out of this by removing the set visualizations. Also, some cases would require you to just refresh the liveboard, and we also have a host event to just reload the page, and that should reset any filters applied or any changes done on this. So yeah, I think most of the um, available actions can be referenced from the doc section, where we have a whole bunch of actions which can be played around with, even the host actions. So yeah, that should be what I wanted to cover.